It's good to see you today. Hope you're doing well. We are going to be looking once again in Acts chapter 5. Our hymn today is Sweeter Than All. If you listen carefully, you'll notice the song is slightly different, and it's on this slide of what's on the screen. All right. We are going to be looking in Acts chapter 5 today. And yesterday we were also in Acts 5. Yesterday we looked at Ananias and Sapphira, and as it closed out, and great fear fell upon all the church. Verse 11. Many signs and wonders are being done, and there is a good bit of reverence happening. And it's just an interesting time, let's say, as the people esteemed them highly. Talking about the apostles. The apostles once again are arrested, though. The high priest rose up, all those who are with him, that is the sect of the Sadducees. They're filled with indignation because they're preaching again. In verse 19, but at night an angel of the Lord opened the prison doors, brought them out, and said, go stand in the temple and speak to the people all the words of this life. And what a wonderful thing. Earlier, a couple lessons ago, we looked at that verse from Psalm, I believe, and it was, why do the people, oh no, we're actually getting ready to. Actually, it's in chapter 4. Let me go pull it up, because it illustrates this so well. It was a verse we didn't look at, but it was something else from the Psalms. I believe it's Psalm 2, but in Acts 4, verse 25. Why did the nations rage and the people plot vain things? And I just was thinking about how vain it is, how futile it is to arrest the apostles when all an angel of the Lord has to do is come and open the prison doors and bring them out and go stand in the temple and speak to all the people the words of this life. And so when they heard that, they entered the temple early in the morning and they taught, and the high priest and those came. They're looking for, they're prisoners, and the officers say, we found the prison shut securely, the guards standing outside the doors, but when we open them, no one's inside. So you can tell just how miraculously this happened. And so they come and they find them in the temple. And it's, oh, the people who plot vain things. You think you've got them right where you want them, in prison. And the angel just comes and just brings them out. And then, lo and behold, you go and look for them, and it's like, wait a minute, everything's shut securely, but there they are in the temple. Don't fight against the Lord. Don't do it. All right, so as it goes on, and there they are, they're preaching in the temple. The captain and the officers brought them without violence. They feared the people. And they say, did we not strictly command you not to teach in this name? And look, you have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine and intend to bring this man's blood on us. But Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than man. You want to bring this man's blood upon us. Well, you all were the ones who said we have no king but Caesar. You all are the ones who said we would prefer to have a murderer released. You are the ones who put him on trial. I don't fully understand that. Them saying you intend to bring this man's blood on us. I don't get it, frankly. And Peter just gives them the same answer that he gave them before. We ought to obey God rather than man. They say, didn't we warn you? And Peter says, yeah, we heard you the first time. We ought to obey God rather than man. And so he goes on, the God of our fathers raised up Jesus, whom you murdered. Talking about the resurrection again. And when they heard this, they were furious, plotted to kill him. Verse 34, you have Gamaliel's advice. And Gamaliel's advice is basically to do nothing. And he says, take heed to yourselves what you intend to do regarding these men. And he says, keep away from these men, let them alone. He gives a couple of examples of people who had claimed to be someone and turned out it just came to nothing. So he says, keep away from these men, let them alone, for if this plan or this work is of men, it will come to nothing. But if it is of God, you cannot overthrow it, lest you even be found to fight against God. And they agreed with him. When they had called for the apostles and beaten them, they commanded them that they should not speak in the name of Jesus, and let them go. And of course, what they do is they're daily in the temple, teaching and preaching Jesus. My question is, was Gamaliel's advice good? Because sometimes I've heard folks say, yeah, that seems like pretty good advice. Gamaliel's advice is not good. And the reason it's not good is because Gamaliel's advice is to do nothing. And it's pretty obvious this is from God. The miracles are confirming it. The right answer would be, because he says, if it's from man, let him alone, it's going to come to nothing. But if it's from God, what he should have said, if it is of God, get on board. Now, he does say you cannot overthrow it, lest you even be found to fight against God. And, well, they agreed with him, but then what do? They beat the apostles. Well, what if they're from God? They beat the apostles, and they commanded that, once again, they should not speak in the name of Jesus. Gamaliel's advice is do nothing. That's not good advice. The right thing to say is, if it's not from God, reject it. If it's from God, do it. That's what Jesus says with John the Baptist's baptism in talking to the Pharisees. Which is it, from man or from God? And they say, well, if we say it's from man, people are going to be really mad at us because they count him as a prophet. But if we say it's from God, he's going to say, why didn't we do it? That's good advice. Gamaliel's advice, not so much. He says do nothing. In the grand scheme of things, it's actually not very good advice. And they beat the apostles. And again, apostles go out, and there they are, daily in the temple and in every house. They did not cease teaching and preaching, and then we get into the account of the Grecian widows. Talk about that later on. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.